The massive alien ship appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system without warning. It was larger than anything humanity had ever built, a vessel of smooth silver metal that seemed to bend light around its edges. On every human space station and military base, alarms began to sound. Admiral Deho stood on the bridge of the orbital defense station Defiance, watching the alien vessel approach through the main view screen. His hands gripped the railing in front of him, knuckles white with tension. Distance? Deho asked, his voice calm despite the chaos erupting around him. Commander Haijin checked her console, her fingers moving rapidly across the holographic display. 3 million kilometers and closing. They're moving slowly, sir. Almost like they want us to see them coming. Dr. Minseo rushed onto the bridge, her tablet clutched against her chest. She was Earth's leading expert in theoretical xenolinguistics, though until today, her field had been entirely theoretical. Now it was terrifyingly real. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission. It's complex, but my computer is breaking it down. Give me 2 minutes. Those 2 minutes felt like hours. Daiho watched the alien ship drift closer, its size becoming more apparent with each passing second. It could hold thousands, maybe tens of thousands of beings. Behind it, space seemed empty, but Daiho knew better than to assume they came alone. Combat stations, he ordered. Weapons hot, but fingers off triggers. Haijin, get me a tactical analysis. Haijin worked quickly, coordinating with a dozen other defense platforms scattered around Earth's orbit. They have some kind of energy shielding. Our sensors can barely penetrate it. No visible weapons, but that doesn't mean much. One ship that size could carry enough firepower to gloss the planet. Translation complete, Minseo announced, her voice shaking slightly. She sent the document to Daiho's personal screen. Admiral, you need to read this carefully. The words they use. They're concerning. Daiho read through the message, his expression growing darker with each line. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Council, a union of 47 spacefaring species. They had maintained peace across the galaxy for 3,000 years. They were here to welcome humanity into the civilized galaxy and offer guidance as Earth integrated into their society. But it was the details that made Daiho's blood run cold. The message used the word compliance 17 times. It spoke of necessary restrictions on military development. It mentioned re-education programs for human leadership. It outlined how Earth's resources would be managed for the benefit of the greater galactic community. The final paragraph demanded Earth's immediate surrender of autonomous military control as a gesture of good faith. They're not offering us an alliance, Daiho said quietly. They're demanding our surrender. Minseo nodded, her face pale. The language is diplomatic, but the meaning is clear. Join them on their terms, or face the consequences. It's a threat wrapped in pretty words. Daiho opened a communication channel to Earth's unified government. Within minutes, President Kyung-ho appeared on screen, looking exhausted. The Emergency Council had been meeting for hours, ever since the alien ship was first detected. Admiral, tell me you have good news. I'm afraid not, Mr. President. The aliens want us to surrender our military, accept their authority, and integrate into their power structure. It's not a partnership. It's subjugation. President Kyung-ho was silent for a long moment. Behind him, Daiho could see other government leaders arguing, their voices muted, but their gestures animated. Finally, Kyung-ho spoke. The Council has made a decision. Humanity did not claw its way out of the mud, survive countless wars, and reach the stars just to bow before the first aliens we meet. Send them our response, Admiral. Tell them we decline. Daiho felt a surge of pride mixed with fear. He knew what this decision might cost. And if they don't accept our refusal, sir, then we show them that humanity doesn't surrender easily, Kyung-ho replied. We didn't survive this long by being weak. Do what you must, Admiral. The channel closed. Daiho turned to Minseo. Compose a response. Keep it simple. Tell them humanity declines their offer and requests they leave our system immediately. Minseo worked quickly, translating the message into the alien language format. Within minutes, it was transmitted. On the view screen, the alien vessel continued its slow approach, now less than 2 million kilometers away. 1 hour passed, then 2. The alien ship showed no signs of changing course. They're not leaving, Haijin observed. They're still approaching. Slow, but steady. Daiho felt anger building in his chest. The aliens had received humanity's message. They understood it, but they were ignoring it, assuming that humanity would eventually cave to their demands. In their 3,000 years of peace, they had probably never encountered a species that said no. They thought humanity was bluffing. All defense platforms, this is Admiral Daiho, he announced over the military channel. Prepare to fire on my command. Target their engines and shield generators. If they won't leave peacefully, we'll make them leave. Haijin's eyes widened. Sir, we don't know what their response will be. That ship could destroy us. Then we'll take it down with us, Daiho replied coldly. Better to die free than live as slaves. Charge all weapons. Across Earth's orbit, railguns hummed to life. Nuclear-tipped missiles armed themselves. Laser batteries locked onto target points on the alien vessel's hull. The alien ship crossed the 1 million kilometer mark, entering what humanity considered the absolute defensive perimeter. Fire, Daiho ordered. The space around Earth lit up like a new sun. Dozens of weapons fired simultaneously, their combined firepower representing humanity's best defensive capability. Railgun slugs moving at tremendous velocity slammed into the alien shields, causing ripples of energy to cascade across its surface. Missiles detonated in brilliant flashes. Laser beams carved through space, intense enough to vaporize steel. For a moment, Daiho thought the alien ship would simply absorb the punishment and continue forward. But then its shields flickered, overloaded by the unexpected assault. The vessel began to turn, its massive engines flaring to life. It was retreating, limping back toward the edge of the solar system, its shields depleted and hull scarred. On the bridge of the Defiance, the crew erupted in cheers. They had driven off the aliens. They had protected Earth, but Daiho felt no joy. He watched the damaged alien vessel flee and knew with absolute certainty that this was not a victory. It was the beginning of a war. Get me President Kyung-ho, Daiho said quietly. Tell him the aliens are leaving. And tell him they'll be back with more ships. Haijin's smile faded as the reality of the situation sank in. Humanity had just made an enemy of an empire that controlled the galaxy. They had rejected peace and chosen conflict. There would be no negotiations now, no diplomatic solutions. The Galactic Council had offered humanity a choice, and humanity had answered with violence. As the alien ship disappeared from their sensors, Daiho began preparing for what came next. He ordered increased production of defense platforms, accelerated training for military personnel, and began drafting plans for a defensive perimeter that could withstand a full-scale invasion. Dr. Minseo continued analyzing the alien language, hoping to intercept their communications. Commander Haijin coordinated with Earth's other defense forces, ensuring everyone was ready for the inevitable counterattack. In the distance, Earth continued to turn, beautiful and blue against the black of space. 40 billion humans lived on that planet, unaware of how close they had come to losing their freedom. Daiho had bought them time, but he did not know how much. The galaxy now knew about humanity, and the galaxy knew that humanity would fight. 3 months had passed since the alien ship fled from Earth's solar system. In that time, humanity had transformed from a species reaching tentatively toward the stars into a civilization preparing for war. Fleet Admiral Jiwan stood in the command center deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, surrounded by holographic displays showing the defensive network humanity had constructed around their home system. "Status report," Jiwan ordered, her eyes scanning the various screens. Chief Engineer Taiwan stepped forward, his tablet showing construction progress. "The outer defense ring is 70% complete. We've positioned 300 automated weapons platforms at key points around the solar system. Each one carries enough firepower to cripple a ship the size of that first alien vessel." Jiwan nodded, but her expression remained troubled. "And the new ships? The ones based on the alien technology we salvaged?" Taiwan's face brightened slightly. "We recovered some interesting fragments from where we hit their shields. Their faster-than-light drive uses a quantum tunnel principle we've been theorizing about for decades. We've built 3 prototype ships capable of FTL travel. They're crude compared to alien technology, but they work." Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council was meeting on their capital world of Corvanis. The chamber was enormous, designed to accommodate representatives from 47 different species. Some breathed oxygen, others required methane atmospheres and attended via hologram. Some stood on legs, others floated, and a few existed as crystalline structures that communicated through light pulses. High Arbiter Thelmos called the emergency session to order. His species, the Morvathians, were tall and slender with skin that shifted colors based on their emotions. Right now, his skin showed the deep purple of concern. "We face an unprecedented situation," Thelmos announced. "For the first time in 3,000 years, a species has rejected council membership with violence." The chamber erupted in discussion. Ambassador Valtros, who had led the first contact mission, stood to speak. "The humans are primitive but dangerous. They attacked without attempting further negotiation. Their weapons, while crude, were surprisingly effective. We barely escaped." A representative from the Draxian species, a militaristic race that provided most of the Council's fleet, slammed his clawed fist on his podium. "Then we show them the consequences of their choice. We send the full fleet and remind them why species joined the Council." But others disagreed. A floating crystalline being named Lunara pulsed with gentle light. "Perhaps we approached them incorrectly. Our standard integration message may have been interpreted as a threat. These humans value independence highly. We should try again, with different language." The Council split into 3 factions. One group wanted to quarantine the human solar system and ignore them. Another demanded military action to force compliance. The third advocated for renewed diplomatic efforts. The debate raged for hours, with no clear consensus emerging. Back on Earth, Intelligence Officer Soman sat in a darkened room filled with computer equipment. She had been working 18-hour days, trying to intercept and decode alien communications. Humanity's first FTL-capable ship had been sent on a reconnaissance mission to observe Council space from a distance, using stealth technology to avoid detection. The data it collected had been disturbing. Soman entered Admiral Jiwan's office, carrying a thick data file. "Ma'am, you need to see this. We've intercepted thousands of hours of Council communications and decoded their historical databases." Jiwan gestured for her to continue. Soman opened the file, displaying information on the holographic projector. "The Galactic Council isn't what they claim to be. Yes, they've maintained peace for 3,000 years, but it's not through diplomacy. It's through force." The images showed dozens of different alien species, their worlds, and their histories. Soman highlighted several. 40 years ago, the Keltharian species refused to join the Council. The Council blockaded their home world, cut off all trade, and waited. Within 2 years, the Keltharians were starving. They joined the council and accepted all terms. 20 years before that, the Vorns tried to maintain their independence. The council fleet destroyed their orbital shipyards and occupied their planet for a decade until they complied. Ji-Wan felt cold anger building inside her. So the council's peace is just domination wearing a friendly face. Exactly, Soman confirmed. New species are given a simple choice: join and accept technological restrictions on military development, or face economic destruction and eventual military subjugation. The Council doesn't conquer directly. They make independence impossible. And the species that do join? What happens to them? Soman displayed more data. They're integrated into the Council's hierarchy. The Council controls all advanced technology. Member species are allowed to develop culturally and economically, but their military capabilities are strictly limited. The Council maintains the only significant military force in the galaxy. Any species that tries to develop weapons beyond a certain level is sanctioned immediately. Ji-Wan studied the information carefully. So we were never being offered a partnership. We were being offered a cage, even if it was a comfortable one. That's why our rejection shocked them so much, Soman explained. In their experience, species either join willingly when they see the benefits, or are forced to join after economic pressure breaks them. No one has ever actually fought back. Ji-Wan made a decision. Get this information to President Kyung-ho immediately. Humanity needs to know what we're really facing. 1 week later, President Kyung-ho stood before a joint session of Earth's unified government. The chamber was packed with representatives from every nation, every major organization, every group that had a voice in humanity's future. The information gathered by intelligence officer Soman had been distributed to all of them. Now they needed to decide how to respond. The Galactic Council has ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years, Kyung-ho began, his voice calm but firm. They maintain their power through a simple system. They offer new civilizations a choice that isn't really a choice at all. Join them and surrender your independence, or be destroyed economically and militarily until you have no option but to join. The chamber was silent, everyone listening intently. Kyung-ho continued. They've done this to dozens of species. Some joined willingly, believing the Council's promises of peace and prosperity. Others resisted and were broken. But no one, in 3,000 years, has successfully maintained their independence. A representative from the Pacific nations stood. Mr. President, are you suggesting we fight? Against an empire that controls the entire galaxy? I'm suggesting we don't have a choice, Kyung-ho replied. The Council won't leave us alone. They can't. If we successfully remain independent, it shows every other species in the galaxy that the Council's power isn't absolute. We become a symbol of resistance. They'll do whatever it takes to force us into compliance, because if they don't, their entire system starts to crumble. Another representative spoke up. But we can't win against those odds. They have thousands of ships, dozens of species, resources from hundreds of worlds. Fleet Admiral Ji-Wan stood from her seat. We don't need to conquer the galaxy. We just need to make ourselves too expensive to subdue. We need to show them that the cost of forcing us to join is higher than the benefit of having us as members. We make ourselves a problem they don't want to deal with. The debate continued for hours, but eventually a consensus emerged. Humanity would not surrender. They would prepare for war, but not a war of conquest. A war of independence. They would build defenses, develop better weapons, and train every able person for the fight ahead. President Kyung-ho made a historic announcement. BROADCAST across all human colonies and settlements. To the Galactic Council, wherever you're listening, humanity rejects your authority. We will bow to no council, no empire, no power but our own. We were born free, and we will die free if necessary. If you want our independence, you'll have to take it from us. And we promise you, the price will be higher than you're willing to pay. The message was transmitted on every frequency humanity could access, including those used by the Council. It was a declaration of defiance heard across the galaxy. In Council space, the message caused immediate uproar. Some species admired humanity's courage. Others thought them suicidal. But everyone understood one thing. The humans meant what they said. High Arbiter Felmos received the message in his private chambers. He listened to it 3 times, his skin shifting through various shades of purple and red. Finally, he made a decision. Diplomacy had failed. Economic pressure would take too long. The humans had made their choice. The Council would respond with forced orders went out across Council space. The fleet would be mobilized. The humans would be taught the lesson that every other species had learned. Resistance was futile. The Council's peace would be maintained, even if it required war to enforce it. On Earth, Admiral Jiwan received intelligence reports of the Council's fleet movements. She knew what was coming. The real war was about to begin. 6 months after humanity's defiant message, Fleet Captain Junho sat in the command chair of the warship Indomitable. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, professionals trained for a mission that would change everything. Behind them, 29 other human vessels waited in formation, all running silent in the darkness of space. They were deep in Council territory, light years from Earth, about to do something no species had dared in 1,000 years. Target in sight, reported Navigation Officer Minseok. On the main screen, a massive orbital structure appeared. The Velker Prime shipyards stretched for hundreds of kilometers, a vast construction facility where the Council built most of their military vessels. Currently, 73 ships were in various stages of completion, ranging from small patrol craft to heavy cruisers. UNHO studied the facility carefully. Intelligence Officer Summon's reconnaissance had provided detailed information about security protocols, shift changes, and defensive capabilities. The timing had to be perfect. Weapons status? He asked. Weapons Officer Yuna checked her console. All systems ready. Nuclear warheads armed. Railguns loaded. We have 32 missiles ready for immediate launch. Remember the plan, Junho said calmly. We're not here to kill anyone. We're here to destroy their ability to build more ships. Target the construction bays, the resource storage facilities, and the main power generators. Avoid the habitation sections. The attack began at 0400 station time, when the facility's crew was at minimum staffing. The human fleet dropped out of stealth mode simultaneously, appearing less than 50,000 kilometers from the shipyards. Before the station's defenses could react, humanity struck. Yuna fired the first salvo. 12 nuclear-tipped missiles launched from the Indomitable, their engines burning bright in the darkness. Other ships followed suit, overwhelming the station's point defense systems. The first explosions bloomed against the yaw. Shipyards like deadly flowers, tearing through construction bays and melting support structures. The station's defenders finally responded, but they were slow and confused. Council military doctrine hadn't accounted for a surprise attack deep in their own territory. Their defensive batteries fired wildly, missing the fast-moving human ships. A few shots connected, damaging shields and hull plating, but nothing that stopped the assault. UNHO ordered the second phase. All ships railed in barrage on the completed vessels. Don't let them launch. Solid slugs accelerated to tremendous velocities, slammed into the ships under construction. Hulls crumpled. Engines exploded. Entire sections of the facility began breaking apart, the explosions triggering chain reactions through connected systems. In less than 10 minutes, 70% of the shipyard's construction capacity was reduced to twisted metal and debris. "Target destroyed," Una reported, satisfaction clear in her voice. "Shipyard is non-functional. They won't be building anything there for years." "All ships, execute withdrawal," Juno commanded. The human fleet turned as one, their faster-than-light drives engaging. Within seconds, they vanished into the quantum tunnels of FTL space, leaving behind a burning facility and shocked survivors. The entire operation had taken less than 15 minutes. News of the attack spread through Council space like wildfire. On Corvinus, High Arbiter Thel Moss called an emergency meeting. The council chamber was in chaos. Representatives shouted over each other, their voices creating a cacophony of fear and anger. "This is an act of war," declared the Draxian representative. "These humans have attacked us in our own territory. We must respond with overwhelming force." Ambassador Valtros stood, his skin showing the red of rage. "I warned you they were dangerous. I told you needed immediate military action. Now they've destroyed our primary shipyard." But some representatives were more worried than angry. Lumara, the crystalline being, pulsed with dim light. "If they can strike at Velka Prime, they can strike anywhere. Our defenses were designed to prevent civil unrest and piracy, not military assault. We're vulnerable." Thelnos tried to restore order, but the damage to Council prestige was done. For 3,000 years, the Council had been seen as invincible. Now a species barely capable of faster-than-light, travel had struck at the heart of Council territory and escaped without losses. It was humiliating. Humanity didn't stop with one attack. Over the next 2 months, Fleet Captain John Ho and Marshal Commander Byung Hee led coordinated strikes across a dozen Council systems. They hit supply depots, communication relays, and administrative centers. They never stayed long enough to be caught, using hit-and-run tactics that the Council had no experience defending against. Marshal Commander Byung Hee proved particularly effective. His background in Earth's military history provided him with strategies the Council had never encountered. He employed ambush tactics, false retreats, and psychological warfare. Human ships would appear, strike quickly, and vanish before reinforcements arrived. The Council fleet, built for intimidation and police actions rather than actual warfare, struggled to adapt. But the human attacks weren't just military. Intelligence Officer Soman had been busy. She had infiltrated Council communication networks and discovered years of suppressed information. Now that information was being released to the public across Council space. Files showing how the Council had forced species into membership. Records of economic blockades and military occupation. Evidence of systematic suppression of emerging civilizations. The information caused chaos. 3 species that had been subjugated decades ago began organizing resistance movements. The Keltharians, who had been starved into submission 40 years prior, started sabotaging Council facilities on their home world. The Vorns, who had been occupied for a decade, began attacking Council ships in their system. Other species watched and wondered if they too could break free. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Jiwan watched the reports with satisfaction. "We're not just fighting a military campaign," she explained to President Kyung-ho during a briefing. "We're fighting an information war. Every attack we make, every piece of data we release, it all weakens the Council's authority." President Kyung-ho nodded. "But we're also making them desperate. Desperate enemies do unpredictable things." He was right. On Corvinus, the political situation had deteriorated rapidly. High Arbiter Thelnos, blamed for the Council's failures, was removed from power in a political coup. His replacement was War Marshal Krevvin, a hardline military commander from the Draxian species. Krevvin had built his career on putting down rebellions and enforcing Council authority. He was ruthless, efficient, and convinced that overwhelming force was the answer to every problem. Krevvin's first act as leader was to consolidate the Council fleet. He recalled ships from every system, pulling them back to form a single massive armada. Over 2,000 vessels, ranging from small corvettes to massive dreadnoughts, assembled in Council space. It was the largest military force gathered in over a millennium. "The humans have been fighting us like cowards," Krevfen announced to the assembled Council. "They strike from shadows and run before we can respond. This ends now. We will take the fleet directly to their home world. We will show them what happens when species defy the Council." Some representatives objected, arguing that such an aggressive move would make the Council look like tyrants. But Krevfen dismissed them. "We are not tyrants. We are maintaining order. The humans have shown they cannot be reasoned with. They understand only force. So we will give them force." Intelligence Officer Soman detected the fleet movements immediately. She watched through intercepted communications as ship after ship joined the massive armada. Her hands shook as she calculated the numbers. "They're coming," she reported to Admiral G1. "All of them. The entire Council fleet is moving toward our solar system." G1 felt fear grip her heart, but she pushed it aside. This was what they had been preparing for. "Get me Admiral Deo and Marshal Commander Bungi. Recall all our ships from Council space. It's time for the final battle." Across human space, the call went out. Every warship, every defense platform, every armed vessel of any kind was ordered to the Sol system. Civilian ships were evacuated to the outer colonies. Manufacturing facilities went into overtime, producing ammunition and spare parts. The solar system became an armed fortress, humanity's last line of defense. Admiral Deo, now Supreme Commander of Human Defense Forces, coordinated the defensive preparations. His experience from the First Contact incident had taught him valuable lessons about alien tactics and technology. Now he would put all of that knowledge to use. Chief Engineer Taiwan activated the final piece of humanity's defense strategy. Project Helios had been his idea, a network of solar-powered energy weapons positioned throughout the inner solar system. Each one could harness the sun's energy to fire devastating beams capable of cutting through Council shields. They were one-shot weapons, taking hours to recharge, but in the opening moments of battle, they would be crucial. Dr. Min Seo prepared one final broadcast to the Council fleet as it approached. Her message was simple and clear, translated into every Council language. "This is humanity's final warning. Turn back now. We do not want war, but we will not surrender. If you attack Earth, we will defend ourselves with everything we have. Many will die. Turn back." War Marshal Krevfen received the message aboard his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. He read it once and deleted it. In his experience, primitive species always threatened and bluffed before accepting the inevitable. The humans would break when they saw the size of the Council fleet. They would surrender rather than face extinction. He was certain of it. The Council fleet dropped out of FTL space at the edge of the solar system. 2,000 ships, their combined mass enough to dwarf any force humanity had ever assembled. On Earth, people looked up at the sky and saw them arriving, points of light appearing like new stars. Everyone knew what those lights meant. The final battle had begun. The Council fleet hung at the edge of the solar system like a dark cloud, 2,000 ships arranged in perfect military formation. War Marshal Krevfen stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, studying tactical displays that showed every human defensive position. He saw automated weapons platforms, warships clustered near Earth and Mars, and energy signatures indicating power buildups across multiple locations. "Pathetic," Krevfen muttered. "They have perhaps 300 combat-capable vessels. We have 2,000. This won't be a battle. It will be an execution." His second-in-command, a cautious officer named Velkris, studied the same displays with more concern. Sir, intelligence reports suggest the humans have been preparing for months. Those energy signatures near the sun are concerning. We don't know what weapons they've developed. Krevthin waved dismissively. It doesn't matter what tricks they've prepared. Numbers decide battles, and we have overwhelming numerical superiority. Begin the advance. All ships maintain formation. We'll crush their outer defenses and force surrender before we reach Earth. The Council fleet began moving forward, engines blazing as they accelerated toward the inner solar system. It was an impressive sight, thousands of ships moving in coordinated patterns, their formation designed to conquer. Entrate firepower while providing mutual defense. Council military doctrine emphasized overwhelming force and intimidation. It had worked for 3,000 years. On the orbital station Defiance, Admiral Deho watched the enemy fleet approach. Around him, his command staff worked calmly despite the fear they all felt. They had trained for this moment, planned for it, but the reality of facing 2,000 enemy ships was terrifying. Deho activated the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Supreme Commander Deho. They're coming. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. Hold your positions until my command. Fleet Admiral G1 commanded the main human battle fleet, positioned in a defensive sphere around Earth. Her flagship, the Unyielding, was humanity's newest and most powerful warship, built specifically for this battle. Around her, captains checked in one by one, confirming readiness. Weapons Officer Yuna reported all systems operational. Chief Engineer Taiwan confirmed the experimental weapons were armed and ready. The Council fleet crossed the orbit of Neptune, then Uranus. They encountered the first automated defense platforms there. Clusters of weapons humanity had positioned throughout the outer system. The platforms opened fire, railguns hurling solid slugs and missiles launching in salvos. Several Council ships took damage, their shields flaring under the impact, but the fleet barely slowed. They returned fire, destroying the platforms with concentrated beam weapons. First defensive line eliminated, reported Velcris. Minimal damage to our forces. Continuing advance. But Krevthin noticed something odd. The humans had withdrawn their mobile forces, pulling back toward the inner system rather than defending the outer platforms. They're retreating already? Where's their fighting spirit? Sir, it might be a tactical withdrawal, Velcris suggested, drawing us deeper into the system where their defenses are stronger. Then we'll destroy those defenses too, Krevthin declared. All ships increase speed. I want this over quickly. The Council fleet accelerated, eager to finish the battle. They passed Saturn, then Jupiter, their formation beginning to stretch as faster ships pulled ahead. That's when Marshal Commander Bungi sprung his trap. Hidden among Jupiter's moons, a strike force of 50 human ships had been waiting in silence. As the Council vanguard passed, Bungi gave the order. All ships attack now. Hit them hard and fast. The human ships erupted from their hiding positions, attacking the Council fleet's flanks. Nuclear weapons detonated among the tightly packed enemy vessels. Railgun fire tore through ships that had relaxed their shields, thinking they were safely in the rear of the formation. In minutes, 30 Council ships were destroyed or disabled. Ambush! Velcris shouted. Port flank is taking heavy casualties. Krevthin snarled in fury. Detach 200 ships. Hunt them down. The main fleet continues to Earth. But the damage was done. The Council formation had been disrupted, ships breaking off to chase the human raiders. Byungai's force scattered, leading the pursuers on a chase through the asteroid belt. Every minute they spent chasing shadows was another minute. Humanity gained to prepare. The main Council fleet reached Mars orbit. There, they found the second defensive line waiting. 200 human warships hung in space, supported by hundreds of weapons platforms. Admiral Dao's voice echoed across the human fleet. For Earth, for humanity, fire. The space between Mars and Earth became a storm of violence. Human ships launched everything they had, overwhelming the Council's defensive capabilities through sheer volume of fire. But the Council returned fire with devastating effect. Human ships died, their hulls torn apart by alien weapons more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. The brave crews fought until their ships exploded around them. Commander Haijin, serving as tactical coordinator, watched ship after ship vanish from her displays. "We've lost 60 vessels," she reported, her voice tight with emotion. "But we've destroyed over 100 of theirs. We're trading at nearly 2-to-1. Not good enough," Deo replied. "We need 3-to-1 to have any chance. Activate Project Helios." Throughout the inner solar system, the weapons chief engineer Taiwan had built came online. Massive solar collectors that had been disguised as research stations suddenly revealed their true purpose. They focused the sun's energy into coherent beams, directing them at the Council fleet. The first beam struck a Council-heavy cruiser, cutting through its shields like they didn't exist. The ship split in half, both sections tumbling away, trailing debris. "What was that?" Krevthin demanded, watching another of his ships die to the mysterious beams. "Where are those weapons?" "They're using solar energy," Velkris reported, studying sensor data. "Massive energy collectors positioned around the sun. Sir, those weapons are incredibly powerful." "Then destroy them," Krevthin ordered. But the Helios weapons were positioned behind the human fleet, forcing Council ships to push through the defensive lines to reach them. And every minute they spent fighting cost them ships. The Council still had numerical superiority, but it was shrinking. Krevthin began to realize that this battle would not be the easy victory he had expected. Fleet. Admiral Jiwan saw the Council fleet pressing forward despite their losses. They were determined to reach Earth, to force humanity's surrender. She activated the final phase of the defensive plan. "All ships, fall back to Earth orbit. Draw them in closer." The human fleet retreated, appearing to break under the Council's assault. Krevthin, sensing victory, ordered his ships to pursue. "Push forward. Don't let them regroup. We end this now." The Council fleet surged toward Earth, their remaining 1,600 ships overwhelming the human defenses through sheer numbers. Human vessels fought desperately, but they were being pushed back. On Earth, billions of people watched the battle unfolding in their sky, wondering if these were their last hours. Then Captain Junho arrived with the strike force that had been harassing the Council's rear. But he didn't attack the main fleet. Instead, he led his ships directly at the Eternal Dominion, Krevthin's flagship. "All ships, focus on that dreadnought. We're taking down their commander." "Sir, that's suicide," his second officer protested. "That ship has more firepower than our entire force." "Maybe," Junho replied. "But if we kill their leadership, the whole fleet might fall apart. It's worth the risk." Junho's ships accelerated to ramming speed, firing everything they had at the Eternal Dominion. The flagship's shields held against the assault, but the humans didn't stop. 3 ships deliberately crashed into the dreadnought's shields, their detonating reactors finally overwhelming the defensive barriers. With shields down, the rest of Junho's force poured fire into the flagship's hull. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, alarm screamed. Systems failed. Fires erupted. Krevthin watched his command center collapse around him. "Reinforce the bridge. We can't let them." Captain Junho's ship, the Indomitable, smashed into the flagship's command section. Junho and his Marines stormed through the breach, fighting their way to the bridge. The battle was desperate and brutal. Close-quarters combat between humans in powered armor and Council soldiers who had never experienced real war. In the end, Junho stood over Krevfin's unconscious body, the bridge secured. "This is Captain Junho to all human forces," he broadcast. "We have captured the Council flagship. Their commander is our prisoner." On the Eternal Dominion systems, Junho found something interesting. The Council fleet's coordination network ran through the flagship. With the right codes, which his technical team quickly extracted from the ship's computers, he could access their communications. "Broadcast this on all Council frequencies," he ordered. The message went out in every language the Council used. Images of Krevvin, defeated and captured. Images of the Eternal Dominion, humanity's flag now flying from its hull. And a simple statement: "Your invasion has failed. Your commander has fallen. Withdraw now, or share his fate." The effect was immediate. The Council fleet, already battered and disorganized, began to panic. Ships broke formation. Some tried to flee. Others fought among themselves, confusion spreading through their ranks. Without central coordination, and with their commander captured, 3,000 years of military doctrine fell apart. Admiral Deo saw the opportunity and seized it. "All ships, press the attack. Drive them out of our system." The human fleet, though outnumbered and damaged, surged forward with renewed determination. The Council ships, now fighting individually rather than as a coordinated force, couldn't stand against the desperate assault. They broke and ran, their retreat becoming a rout. Ship after ship engaged their FTL drives, fleeing back toward Council space. The Battle of Seoul lasted 72 hours. When it ended, human space was littered with debris from nearly 1,400 Council ships. Humanity had lost over 200 vessels and countless brave souls. But Earth still stood, free and unconquered. The survivors looked at the wreckage and knew they had won something precious. Their independence. 3 months after the Battle of Seoul, a small diplomatic vessel approached Earth's solar system. It moved slowly, transmitting peaceful intentions on every frequency. Unlike the massive warship that had arrived 2 years earlier, this ship was modest, designed for negotiation rather than intimidation. On Earth's defense stations, sensors tracked its approach with caution. Admiral Daiho stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the alien ship draw closer. The last time he had seen a Council vessel, it had been fleeing for its life, part of the rooted fleet that humanity had driven from their home. Now they were back, but this time asking for permission to approach. "What do you think?" Commander Haijing asked. "Could be a trick." Daiho shook his head slowly. "I don't think so. They're broadcasting surrender terms. They want to negotiate a ceasefire." He opened a channel to the alien vessel. "This is Supreme Commander Daiho of Earth Defense Forces. You may approach, but you will be escorted by armed ships. Any hostile action will result in your immediate destruction." The alien response came quickly. "We understand. We seek only to talk." The diplomatic vessel was escorted to the human flagship Unyielding, where President Kyung-ho and Fleet Admiral Ji-wan waited in a conference room. The room had been chosen deliberately. Through its large windows, the wreckage of destroyed Council ships could be seen floating in Earth's orbit, a reminder of what happened when humanity was pushed too far. The Council delegation consisted of 5 representatives from different species. They looked tired, defeated. None of them wore the confident expressions of beings accustomed to absolute authority. They were people who had learned a hard lesson about the price of forcing others to submit. One of them, a Morvathian diplomat named Thelkara, spoke first. His skin shifted through colors showing respect and submission, something no Council representative had ever shown humanity before. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, we request a formal ceasefire. The war between our peoples must end." President Kyung-ho studied the delegation carefully. He had aged visibly Over the past 2 years, the weight of leading humanity through its first interstellar war showing in the lines on his face. Why should we agree? You came to our home demanding surrender. You attacked us when we refused. Now you want peace because you lost? Thelkara's skin darkened with shame. You are correct to be angry. The Council made grave errors in judgment. We underestimated your resolve and your capabilities. We thought you would be like the others, that you would accept Council membership once you understood you had no choice. But we did have a choice, Fleet Admiral Jiwan interjected. We chose to fight, and we won. Another delegate, representing the crystalline Lung Ara species, pulsed with soft light. You did more than win a battle. You broke something that seemed unbreakable. For 3,000 years, the Council maintained order through the threat of force. No species ever successfully resisted us. Until you? And now? President Kyung-ho asked. Now the galaxy is in chaos, Thelkara admitted. 3 species have openly rebelled. 7 more are demanding renegotiation of their membership terms. Our authority is collapsing. The system we built to maintain peace is falling apart because you showed everyone it could be defied. Admiral Daeho entered the conference room, having left the bridge in Commander Haijin's capable hands. He carried a datapad that he placed on the table. Good. Your system was built on domination, not cooperation. It deserved to fall apart. The Council delegates exchanged glances. Finally, Thelkara spoke again. You are right. We see that now. But chaos is not better than order, even flawed order. Species are fighting each other. Old territorial disputes are reigniting. Without the Council's authority, there is nothing to prevent galactic war. That's not our problem, Kyung-ho replied coldly. You built a system based on forcing species to surrender their independence. Now you're discovering the consequences of ruling through fear rather than respect. The crystalline delegate pulsed urgently. But it could become your problem. If the galaxy descends into total war, humanity will be caught in it. You've proven you can defend yourselves. But can you defend against a dozen different species all fighting for territory and resources? The chaos will eventually reach your borders. It was a valid point, and Kyung-ho knew it. Humanity had won their independence, but they were still one species in a galaxy full of others. They needed allies, not enemies. And they needed some kind of structure to prevent the kind of free-for-all warfare that could consume everything. Dr. Minseo, attending as a translator and xenological expert, spoke up. What exactly are you proposing? That we join the Council after everything that's happened? No, Thelkara said firmly. The Council, as it existed, is finished. We understand that now. What we're proposing is something new. A different kind of organization, one built on principles humanity has shown us. Voluntary membership, equal representation, no restrictions on military development, true cooperation between independent species. President Kyung-ho leaned back in his chair, considering. Fleet Admiral Jiwan looked skeptical. Admiral Daeho remained expressionless, though his mind was racing through the possibilities. This could be a trap, or it could be a genuine opportunity to reshape galactic politics. Show us your proposal, Kyung-ho said finally. In detail. Over the next week, human and Council representatives worked together on what would become known as the Treaty of Terra. The document was drafted primarily by Dr. Minseo and a team of human diplomats, with input from Council species who understood the need for real change. Ambassador Haijin, a skilled negotiator who had risen to prominence during the war, helped refine the language to ensure it protected humanity's core interests. The Treaty of Terra established the Galactic Federation, a fundamentally different organization from the Council. Its core principles were simple but revolutionary. Membership was completely voluntary, with no penalties for species who chose to remain independent. All member species had equal representation regardless of their size or technological level. Military development was unrestricted, with the understanding that species could defend themselves. And most importantly, the Federation had no authority to compel compliance from its members. It's more like a defensive alliance than a government, Fleet Admiral Jiwan observed. Reading through the draft, species agree to cooperate on mutual defense, trade, and scientific research, but retain complete sovereignty. Exactly, President Kyung-ho agreed. It's what the Council should have been from the beginning. A way for species to work together without surrendering their independence. The treaty included provisions for a Federation military force, but with strict limitations. It could only be deployed for defensive purposes or with unanimous approval from all member species. And critically, Fleet Admiral Jiwan was appointed as the Federation's first Supreme Commander of Allied Defense Forces, a position that gave humanity significant influence over how the military would be structured and used. "I'll accept the position on one condition," Jiwan told the assembled delegates. "The Federation military will never, ever be used for conquest or to force species into membership. The moment that changes, I resign and humanity withdraws." The Council delegates agreed immediately. They had learned the hard way what happened when they tried to force compliance. The Treaty of Terra was formally signed aboard, the human flagship unyielding, with representatives from both humanity and the former Council members in attendance. War Marshal Krevthin, still a prisoner of war, was released as a gesture of goodwill, though he would never again hold a position of authority. Captain Junho, who had captured him, stood nearby, a reminder of what happened to those who attacked Earth. Within the first month, 53 civilizations signed the treaty. Some were former Council members, eager to be part of something better. Others were newly spacefaring species, glad to have an alternative to the old system. The Keltharians, who had been starved into joining the Council decades earlier, were among the first to sign. The Vorns, who had been occupied for a decade, celebrated their membership in the Federation as a new beginning. Not everyone joined. Several species chose to remain independent, and the Federation respected that choice. Some Council hardliners refused to accept the new order and tried to maintain the old system. But without the military power to enforce it, their authority meant nothing. The galaxy was changing, and those who couldn't adapt were being left behind. 6 months after the treaty's signing, Captain Hai Jin commanded the patrol ship Defiance II through former Council space. Her crew was mixed now, humans working alongside aliens from a dozen different species. They were investigating reports of piracy near the border territories. A joint operation with Federation forces. On the bridge, Hai Jin's second officer, a young Keltharian named Vilinix, reported on sensor contacts. 3 ships ahead, attacking a civilian freighter. Weapons are charging. "Battle stations," Hai Jin ordered. "Let's remind them that the Federation protects all civilian vessels, regardless of species." As her ship accelerated toward the pirates, Hai Jin reflected on how much had changed in just 2 years. Humanity had gone from a species barely reaching the stars to a founding member of a galactic federation. They had fought for their freedom and won, not through superior technology or overwhelming numbers, but through determination and the willingness to pay any price for independence. Her communications officer, a human named Tihi, received a new signal. "Captain, we're being hailed. It's an unknown species. They're transmitting first contact protocols.